Okay, let's start editing with Audacity. I'll be using an audio file that I recorded earlier in Audacity. If you want to follow along using the same file, you can download it at voiceoverclass.com/lesson3exercisefiles.zip. There are a few things that I want to mention about the audio track. Not the WAV file, but the actual track itself. The first is this. By default, Audacity lets you know that this is an audio track by naming the track Audio Track, just in case you couldn't figure it out any other way. But you can rename it by clicking here. And from the drop-down menu, choosing Name. This actually can come in handy if you're dealing with multiple takes or if you're mixing in music or something. Changing the name can let you keep track of your tracks. I'm going to name this track VO Track 1. Oh, just a side note, changing the name of your track is not the same as naming your export file. There are also some other options in this dropdown. You can change how you view your audio track with these options here. You can combine two tracks to make one stereo track or split a stereo track into two mono tracks. You can change your sample rate or your project rate. I'll get into more of what this stuff is in another tutorial. None of it will directly affect the quality of your recording, so I'll just leave all of it as I found it. I just wanted you to know it's there. This little X right here will close your track, which we don't want to do right now, so I won't click it. You'll just have to trust me. This button here does just what it says. It silences or mutes the audio track. You can tell when a track is muted because the blue stuff turns to a pale gray. Why in the world would you want to do this? Because there are times when you may have two tracks. Maybe one is a second take or an alternate read, and you have both open in the window so you can compare and choose which to send. Mute is great when you only want to hear one of the tracks. The solo button is the anti-mute. Clicking this mutes all of the other tracks, leaving only the soloed track or tracks audible. You can choose more than one track to solo if you have multiple tracks, but remember, Audacity will only play the tracks that actually have the solo button enabled. This is your volume slider. It's just like the one up here, which we talked about in the last tutorial, except that this one only affects the volume of one track, while this one is for the overall playback. And this is the pan slider. It tells Audacity to send more of the audio to the right or left speaker. By default, it's set to hit both speakers equally. If you're submitting an audition, it's usually best to leave it at the default. Now we're ready to edit. Here are your basic editing tools. You have cut, copy, and paste. I'm sure you've seen this before if you've ever used any program that edits anything, whether it be video, audio, or even a word processing program like Microsoft Word. And you have these two buttons, which are a little less familiar. This one is Trim to Selection, which erases anything in your track that has not been highlighted. I'll just select this area here by holding my mouse button and dragging the cursor. And I'll click. And there you go. I've just erased everything that wasn't selected, which in this case will do me no good whatsoever. So it's the perfect time to demonstrate the all-important undo button. This life-saving little miracle button can reverse the last mistake that you made. The more you click it, the farther it goes back into your screw-up history. If you want to be more specific about what you're actually undoing, you can go up here to Edit in the overhead menu, and this first option will tell you exactly what it is you're undoing. And this button here is your Redo button. Click the undo too much, and this brings you back. It's kind of an undo for your undo. Okay, so now our file is back intact, so let's take a look at this button. This will silence your selection without altering the track length. I'll just click this, and we see that the selected area is now silent, but the track is just as long. Let me undo that again. Okay, now in our exercise track, there's a little stumble and a pickup that we need to deal with. I think it's right about here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little with the zoom in button. This will help me make a more accurate selection. And here I go. I'm going to check that I highlighted the right area by pressing play. But he was like, believe it, they have more bargains than Bargain Bonanza, Bargain Bazaar, and Bargain Boot Camp. When you have a selected area, pressing play will only play what you've highlighted. Okay, that sounds like I've got everything. I'll hit delete on my keyboard. And not only is that area gone, but Audacity has shortened the timeline to give me a seamless edit. Let me test it. Big bargains, I'll bet. But he was like, believe it, they have more bargains than Bargain... Okay, that sounds great. Now there's only one more thing that I need to change. When I recorded my audition, I forgot to slate my name when I started, so I just did it at the end of my take. I want to move that to the front, so I'm going to highlight my slate. This is Andy Roth. I'm going to hit the cut button. Okay, now it's gone. Now I'm going to use the paste button, but first I'll jump to the beginning of my track with this button here, because paste will always insert the media at the cursor position. Okay, I'll click paste. Let's give it a listen. This is Andy Roth. Okay, sounds perfect. If for some reason I wanted to duplicate a part of my recording, I could use the copy button. If I wanted my slate at the beginning and end of my read, I'd select my slate here, click the copy button. I'll jump to the end with this button. This time I'll highlight the area where I want my end slate, as it's called, because paste will replace a selection, if you have one, with new stuff. I'll get rid of any extra space that I don't want here by selecting it and hitting delete. The last thing I'll do is delete this slate at the end, because a slate at the beginning and the end is just stupid. And now I'm ready to export my MP3. So, just like we did in the last tutorial, I'll go to the overhead menu. I'll click File. I'll choose Export from the drop-down menu, not Export Selection because I want the whole file. Audacity remembers how you did your last export, so all of your settings should be the same as before, but it can't hurt to recheck it because maybe Gremlins messed with your stuff or something. I see it says MP3 in the format area. That's good. I'll click the Options button. Yep, it's set for a constant bitrate. 192 kilobits per second. Joint stereo. Check, check, and check. I'll hit OK. And I'll click Save. I'm not going to bother with the metadata because the name of my file will give the listener all the info they need in this case, but you can add it if you want. I'll click OK. I'll watch the thing do the little thing. And here's our edited file, just where we saved it. I'll give a listen. This is Andy Roth. I was getting kind of tired of bargain places that weren't really offering any bargains. That's when a friend told me about Bargain Bazaar. At first I was like, right, big bargains, I'll bet. But sounds good. Like, believe it. They have more bargains. Congratulations, you've just created your first fully edited voice track in Audacity. So I said, you drive a hard bargain.